She walked up to the gate, dressed simply in jeans and a sweater, holding her first-class ticket with a quiet confidence. Nothing flashy, just a warm smile and a calm presence. But the airline staff barely gave her a glance before stopping her cold. "First class is for premium passengers only," the attendant said with a smirk, eyeing her up and down. People nearby started to stare, and whispers rippled through the line. She politely explained that she had every right to board, but no one listened. Her words were ignored. Her dignity was brushed aside. What they didn't know was that the woman they were turning away wasn't just a regular traveler. She was married to one of the most powerful billionaires in the country, someone who didn't take kindly to anyone disrespecting his wife. But she didn't mention that. She didn't need to. She just stepped aside, pulled out her phone, and made one quiet call. What happened next would leave the entire airport staff stunned. Within minutes, everything changed. The airline manager rushed in, looking pale. A sudden flurry of phone calls began behind the counter. Some employees were taken aside, some escorted away, and the energy in the terminal shifted completely. Passengers who had witnessed the scene couldn't believe their eyes. But this wasn't about revenge or status. It was about respect, and what happens when people make judgments based only on appearances. This simple woman never raised her voice, never made a scene. But the message was loud and clear. Treat people right, because you never know who's watching or who they're connected to. So, what exactly did her husband say during that phone call? And who were the people that lost their jobs just minutes later? The full story is just getting started. Her name is Elena. To most people, she looked like any other woman, humble, soft-spoken, with kind eyes and a quiet grace. She didn't wear designer brands or flash diamond jewelry, and she liked it that way. Elena had grown up in a small town, far from luxury or attention. Even after marrying Daniel Reed, a tech billionaire with a global empire, she stayed grounded. She believed in kindness, in treating people equally, and in staying true to her roots. Fame and fortune hadn't changed her, but sadly, not everyone saw her that way. The airline staff saw what they wanted to see, a woman who didn't look first class. The way she was judged so quickly, dismissed without even scanning her ticket, wasn't new to her. She had experienced this quiet form of discrimination before, but this time it felt different. This time there were witnesses. Passengers watched, some in silence, some with awkward glances, and some even shaking their heads. No one stepped in. No one questioned it. Back at their private estate, Daniel was wrapping up a video call with international investors when he saw Elena's name flash on his phone. She rarely called when she traveled. Something was wrong. The moment she told him what had happened, Daniel's voice dropped. Calm but cold. "Give me the name on their badge," he said. She did, and he made one call, not to threaten, not to yell, but to inform. That one call set off a chain reaction that rattled the airline's corporate office. What Daniel knew, and what the airline didn't, was that their company had recently signed a major partnership with one of his firms. And in business, disrespecting his family wasn't just personal, it was a problem. But Elena had no idea what was really happening behind the scenes. Not yet. Back at the airport, Elena remained calm. She didn't know exactly what Daniel would do, and she wasn't the type to expect anyone to fight her battles. But deep down, she knew he wouldn't let it slide. Meanwhile, the airline supervisor who had brushed her off just minutes earlier began to notice a shift. A phone buzzed behind the counter. A hushed voice on the other end said, "There's a situation. You need to fix it. Fast." Confused, the supervisor glanced nervously at Elena, who was now sitting quietly near the gate, still waiting for her seat to be honored. Inside the airline's corporate office, things were unraveling. The name Daniel Reed had come up and fast. Executives scrambled to understand the full scope of what had happened. Not only was Daniel one of their largest tech partners, his company had access to logistics software the airline depended on. Quiet meetings turned into urgent calls. Someone from the board was notified. The tension rippled from the ground staff to the top floor. Back at the gate, another layer to the story was unfolding. A young employee named Marcus had seen everything: the way Elena was ignored, how she was spoken to, and how no one stepped in. He had been working at the airline for only 6 months, and his gut told him what happened wasn't right. But speaking up might cost him his job. Still, as the atmosphere grew tenser, Marcus began recording on his phone, just in case. In another part of the terminal, a nosy travel blogger who'd overheard the confrontation started filming too. She didn't recognize Elena, but she knew a viral moment when she saw one. None of them knew yet how quickly this story would explode across social media. The truth was about to come out, but not in the way anyone expected. The whispers at the gate turned into quiet murmurs, then silence. One by one, uniformed staff members were pulled aside. A regional manager had just arrived, his face tight with stress, phone still pressed to his ear. No one had yet told him the full story, but he'd already been warned. Someone important had been disrespected, and this wasn't a small mistake. As he scanned the terminal, his eyes landed on Elena. She wasn't causing a scene. She wasn't even angry. That's what unsettled him the most. At the same time, the travel blogger's video was starting to gain traction online. Her caption read, "Woman denied first class for looking too simple. You won't believe who she really is." The video, which showed Elena being turned away despite holding her ticket, had been shared thousands of times within the hour. Hashtags like hashtag class over character and hashtag Elena Reed started trending. The internet didn't know the full story yet, but it was watching. Meanwhile, Marcus, the young employee, faced a decision. He'd just been asked to delete the footage from his phone and keep things quiet. But something didn't sit right with him. He wasn't interested in going viral. He just wanted to do the right thing. With shaky hands, he forwarded the video to an anonymous tip line and stepped outside to take a breath. Inside the corporate boardroom, Daniel was already 2 steps ahead. He wasn't yelling, but his message was crystal clear. This isn't about status. This is about respect, and your people failed. He didn't demand heads to roll. He didn't have to. The weight of his words was enough. The airline's CEO had joined the call by now, sweating beneath his tailored suit, fully realizing the damage control that would be needed. Back at the gate, a sleek black car pulled up outside the terminal. Someone important had just landed, and everything was about to come to a head. The terminal doors slid open as the sleek black car came to a stop. But it wasn't Daniel who stepped out. It was his personal legal advisor, Claire Monroe. Calm, sharp, and always prepared, Claire didn't waste a second. She moved through the crowd with purpose, flashing a badge that gave her instant access through security. Elena looked up, surprised to see her. Claire leaned in quietly. "Daniel's on a secure call. He asked me to handle things on the ground. We're not just addressing the staff, we're reviewing the entire corporate agreement." That was the first twist no one saw coming. What started as a boarding issue was now snowballing into a full-blown corporate audit. Claire's presence signaled something much bigger than a public relations fix. This was about accountability, top to bottom, and the airline's leadership knew it. Their contract with Daniel's company wasn't just financial, it was essential. Losing it could mean cancelled routes, grounded planes, and millions in revenue losses. But just as things reached a boiling point, another complication emerged. News outlet had picked up the viral video and was broadcasting it live. Except, there was a twist. They were framing it differently. Headlines read, "Wealthy wife uses power to punish working staff." The story was spinning out of control. People online began arguing, some defending Elena, others accusing her of flexing her billionaire husband's influence unfairly. Elena, sitting just feet away, finally saw the headline pop up on her phone. Her heart sank. This wasn't what she wanted. She never asked for anyone to be fired. All she wanted was to be treated fairly. But now it wasn't just about her. It was about the narrative. And narratives, once twisted, are hard to pull back. As the CEO prepared to make a statement and Claire quietly gathered evidence, Elena stood up. She realized this wasn't just a conflict between her and a gate agent anymore. It was something much bigger, and she was right in the middle of it. Elena walked slowly toward the gate counter, her eyes calm but firm. She didn't raise her voice, didn't demand anything. She simply asked for the manager. When the regional manager appeared, flustered and apologetic, she looked him in the eye and said, "I'm not here to get anyone fired. I just want to be treated like a person. That's all." There was a pause, the kind that makes people listen. Around her, silence settled. The staff, the passengers, even Marcus, who had stayed close by, watched as Elena turned a moment of power into something much more powerful: grace. Claire stepped in to wrap up the legal side of things. The airline agreed to a full review of its training and accountability practices. Daniel's company wouldn't pull their contract, but changes would be required. The message was clear: respect doesn't come from uniforms or titles. It comes from how we treat people, no matter who they are or what they look like. The viral video took a new turn as more context came out. People began sharing the full story: the humility of Elena, the professionalism of Claire, and the quiet courage of Marcus, who later received a personal thank you from Daniel himself. The airline issued a public apology, and the employees involved were reassigned, not fired, after completing intensive retraining. As Elena finally boarded her flight, she glanced back one last time, not to gloat, but to take in the moment. A moment that started with judgment and ended with a reminder the world needed: never assume you know someone's worth by their appearance. Whether someone is a billionaire's wife or just a kind stranger, respect should never come with conditions. And sometimes, the quietest people in the room carry the biggest lessons.